Yeah. Uh-huh. 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 Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. 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 Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to today's edition of Good Grief. It is so good to have you here with us. And as I always like to say, you are not alone on this journey called grief. And we're glad to share this space with you. I want to say good afternoon, DJ Lady Rasta. It's so good to have you here. The Rebel Inc., SK8843. I appreciate every last one of you being in the journey today with myself and our wonderful, beautiful host, Crazy Berrytown. Crazy Berrytown, how are you? I see you, truck driver. That's my Mufasa. Mad love coming to you, and good afternoon to each and every one of you. And I start to say Tracy. Crazy Berrytown.
That's me.
Good afternoon to you, and how are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great today. It's Friday. It's a long weekend. Yeah, I'm golden today. I feel good. Yeah, I'm excited to. I'm not necessarily excited. Maybe that's not the right word, but I'm just happy to be at Friday at the week's end. And I mean, it's been a good week, just busy, and
Yes.
it's like hardcore adulting Monday through Friday until about 5. It's like dinner every day. I'm like, oh, that's right. When you have a kid, you gotta feed them. Okay, right. Um, Jesus. I mean, because it's nothing for me to go to bed. I mean, I'll have some Utz party mix and a beer, and it's
Yeah.
dinner. I'm straight. But then I'm like, oh yeah, Captain Boots is 9, beer, that's not gonna work. And party mix, yeah, not so much. So yeah, it's hardcore adulting during the week, especially when you're a parent. So I'm happy to just take a deep breath. It's Friday. Yes. So,
Yes, yes, yes,
how are you
yes.
doing today?
I'm doing well. As I was sharing, I after I finished my stream this morning, I was very industrious and I went out and I cut my grass, front yard, backyard, and
Oh my
we got to do down
gosh.
on the sidewalk, down
Wow.
in front of the house. And so, listen, I was out there making it happen.
Right.
So
Oh
I've had
my
a good
gosh.
cardio in between. And so now I'm just ready to just chill for the rest of the
Chill.
day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it
Yes.
really hot yet? I mean, I guess it was kind of earlyish, but still had it heated up yet?
Uh,
Heated up?
yeah, the heat had kicked in. However, there's a lot of overcast. So the sky is overcast and it was cutting through. There was no sun. So
Okay.
that made a tremendous difference. It actually looks like it's going to rain. But every now and then,
Mhm.
I mean, definitely you could tell it was warm. It was a little toasty. And then, of course, I just looked like somebody had put me under a sprinkler and sweat was running from head to toe, just like
Mhm.
water. So I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
oh, but at the end of the day, I went a couple of times and went under the shade tree. I have some beautiful shade trees and just let the wind just blow. And it felt so,
Mhm.
actually, the sweat felt good. It sweating.
Ah,
Oh, come on, crazy Berry. Sometimes
no.
getting that good, yes, yes, just getting that good energy sweat in can sometimes just make your body feel like, yes, your face. You're
Mm,
not buying what I'm selling.
mm. I love you, but but no.
It's like Richard Simmons sweating to the oldies. It's just something about that
Right.
makes you feel good.
I mean, I will say, I mean, I get what you're saying though. Like, I know, like, for me, sweat is like when I'm working out, it's a bar. So like I know, like, if I'm sweating like crazy, I'm like, all right, I feel good. I got a good workout in. If I'm sweating like this, that means my heart rate was up, which is what I wanted. So it's sort of my bar, but only when I'm working out. If I'm out somewhere and I start sweating or whatever, then I just know I'm like, okay, this is too much. I need to go back in the house. So yeah.
Yes, I believe said by the person who said outdoors is overrated.
It is. Oh my gosh, I hate it so much. Listen, I'm awful. Like Captain Boots always wants to go to the park. And I'm not, you all know I'm very transparent. I have no shame at all, like literally no shame. And I want to be a yes mom for things where it counts, right? So I'm not going to say yes to mom, can I play in traffic, right? That's a
Yeah.
hard no, right? But things like, can I go, can we go to the park, or can I have one more piece of candy if it's only been one in a few days, fine. And so I want to be that mom, and I want him to be outside and enjoy outside. And so I drove, he didn't know, but I drove us to the park. I cried all the way.
Oh,
I was so pissed off. I was like, I freaking hate it. In
oh,
my mind, so I'm like white knuckling the steering wheel, just
oh,
bawling.
oh,
I want to be a good mom, and I really hate the park. And I don't want to be outside. I'm gonna sweat and get eaten up by mosquitoes, and other kids are gonna be there screaming and crying. And yeah, it was a wreck. So I got to the park. So we get out the car, and he's like, "Mom, when you picked me up from school, like you look different. Why are your eyes red and everything, and your face is all wet?" I was like, "Oh, I think it's allergies." That's how much I hate outside. So, but I'm
oh.
prepared for him today. So yesterday I didn't drive to the park crying, but I was very sad about it. But we did go to the park yesterday. So and on Fridays is like he's like most people. It's the weekend. Let's go.
Yes.
So we have a membership to this jumpy place, like a trampoline type place. So I brought clothes for him to change. I have him packed already, and like his little socks you have to have and all that. So I got news for him. So
See,
I'm gonna like head him off at the pass. Hey, you want to go to Defy and jump? Yeah, mom for the win. So I can sit my big butt down on those comfortable sofas. Might even get me a little cocktail in the comforts of air conditioning.
oh my
I mean,
God, that is so funny. CBT, I promise you, I want to laugh and console you all at the same time. But
it's
I'm
funny.
just like, I can so see this in my mind's eye. I can
It's really
see
funny.
it.
It is. It's sad and it's funny at the same time. Yeah, I literally did. I actually had to like chastise myself on this. I was like, "Are you that much of an idiot?" I literally drove all the way to the park crying. It was sad. It was just,
Oh,
but I just don't like it. I just don't like being outside, especially like being at a park. And COVID has made me so like aware of germs. And then I'm like, he's touching the swings.
Oh
He's
man.
sliding down the slide, and his thighs have other people's thigh juice. Like so I'm like, when you get in the car, sit on a towel. As soon as you get in the house, don't you sit on my sofa. It's just, I'm just manic about that kind of stuff.
Not thigh juice.
Right? Kids are nasty. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. But anyway, so yeah, we're looking forward to a good weekend inside.
Inside. That is so funny. And
What's up, John?
I love the outside. I'd rather do outdoors than indoors. So I'm just the exact opposite. But however, you see, our third part is not with us. 1/3 of us is missing. Oh, I feel like a third of us is missing.
Yeah.
Impossible had another assignment somewhere else on today, but she's with us here in spirit, and definitely please know that she is greatly missed. But she will be back next time, and she sends her love and all that good stuff. Yes, thigh juice, rebel thigh juice.
Yeah.
With that,
I mean, maybe it's not thigh juice, but it's like boogers and snot. And, you know what I'm saying? I mean, kids, this is them all like this, and then they go like this, or they wipe, or they're, and then they're holding onto the slide with those booger palms. So I just feel that when he's at the park, I'm just like, and that's a germ, and that's a germ, and that's COVID, and that's a virus, and that, and it's just stressful. It is.
Oh, crazy Berry Town. I just feel all kinds of things on top of humor. But this is just tickling me. But I do understand, and my heart does go out to you, because this is real. This is real life here.
It is real life. It is. And I try, and my husband even says to me, he was like, I know you love your kid because you have stretched yourself so much. Like, even he acknowledges it. He's like, we went to Six Flags in May, and here in Georgia, May, it's like, Satan is around, it's hot. It's hot. And I went and stayed from open to close. So he was like, right. That's what he was like. He was like, clearly you love your kid.
You love that baby. You love Captain Boots. All the love for Captain Boots. That baby is something special, but you got a reason. He's a special guy. I love him. He is. Listen, Jay Trey is a streamer. She's in the room. It's so good to have you here with us today, along with Cassandra Woke. Thank you all for coming out. Yes, Jay Trey said it's just a hot viral mess out there. Just a hot viral mess. She summed it up for us right there.
It is.
Well, I'm going to acquiesce, and wherever we want to go today, Crazy Berry Town, I'm following you.
All right. Let me say hi to John. Hey, John, SK8843. Welcome, Den Darn. Just want to make sure I said hey. Hey, truck driver. How you doing, big brother? DJ Lady Rasta. Good to see you. Jennifer. Hey, love. How are you? Jennifer, have you heard from Bethy? I messaged her a few days ago. I was just thinking about her, and I hope she is hanging in there. I know last weekend was going to be a bit tough. So if you talk to her, Jennifer, and you still hear us, please let her know that we're thinking about her.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. Dendar said, I'm like that when I take my grandbaby out, period, as he gets in before anything else. Clothes off. Right. Clothes off. Yeah. As shoes, clothes, everything. Yeah. And so now I've gotten to the point where I keep like old, like towels in the car, because you're going to sit on that. And you get to the stoop of the garage. Don't even step in the landing of the house, and just take everything off. Yeah.
Strip right there.
Right there. Yeah. So, yeah, I've been thinking, I'm trying to think, how do I want to say this? Okay. So I've been thinking about things that people like, myths, like grief myths.
Yes.
And part of it is just what I've thought all along, like about, what people think, like how people look when they grieve, what their life looks like, how they present themselves, right? What do they say, when they grieve? And I will be honest, I will say that in our stream, we have a great stream, and I love that people can come here and share their thoughts and their feelings. And at times I've seen comments where it seems that, people have put out there things like, I don't know, just not, it's not, I don't want to say it, because if I put it out there, then it's out there, but things like, I just try to think of positive things and that everything's going to be all right. I'm not going to dwell and live in that and harp on the grief and things like that. And I think what made me think about the myths is that it's a myth that when we have a stream like this, when we title it with the word grief in it, when we talk about grief, it's a myth that we are grieving and downtrodden and just broke down all the time, right? And it made me also do a little bit of research also about grief myths, like what do people think? And I think a lot of them are obvious, like time heals all things, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I wanted to talk to you all today and hear from you what you think, either from your own personal experience and maybe feedback or perceptions that you have felt around grief and that you feel like that's a myth. So I want to hear from you. What do you think are some grief myths? Things that people think grievers are like, or ways that we are like, things that we do, things that we think or say, and they're just not true. They're just not true. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, maybe I'm just okay. Yeah. So, and again, and it's not to be, and I don't think when people, and here's the other thing too, right? I don't think people are being harmful when they say those things. I think they are offering those comments to be helpful. Just look to the Lord. Just don't dwell on the sadness. I'm
Mhm.
not, right? I'm not dwelling on the sadness.
Mhm.
And so I read there's a blog, and she hasn't posted in a while, so I don't know if it's still going, but it's this is grief. This is what grief looks like. And it's a great blog. She is a mom like me, and she's, grief looks like her taking her kids to Six Flags and riding the same roller coaster 8 times in a row. Grief is going to your job and killing it and getting a promotion, right?
Mhm.
Grief is your mundane things, going to the grocery store and buying corn, on the cob or whatever. It's not just we're sitting around and harping, if and I've heard that term, harping on the grief and just sort of laying out and never sort of getting over things. And grief doesn't, at least not for me, it's not just that. So
Yes.
let me catch up on the chat. I see some things here. J Trey, the myth that grief can only be when someone dies, that there cannot be any other loss that hurt that bad. Right. And that is one of the things I think we are all careful to say when we talk about grief, particularly when I promote the show. I want people to know that it's not just when you lose someone, it is that, right? But it's also pets, it's jobs, things, sometimes that is part of grief, physical abilities,
Mhm.
lifestyle. One of the things that I've read on a grief therapist that I follow is they've talked about their practice has sort of taken a little bit of not a turn, but they've seen more people since COVID and talking about the grief that they experience because their life has changed so much because of first the lockdown and then just the pandemic. So much loss since
Yes.
2020. And so you're right, J Trey. I think that is spot on.
Mhm.
Yes, John Studios. I used to think that dealing with or experiencing grief was linear. Yeah, I mean, it's rightfully so because there are a lot of. I mean, if you Google the stages of grief or grief diagrams or whatever, a lot of times it is that way, right? It's very prescriptive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or they do a bar line,
Mhm.
a chart type thing, and it's these steps. So it's what our culture puts out there. So John, I feel that. Yeah. Mrs. Cox, you're one of the people that I think about when I think of this is what grief looks like. People see me out and about and they see me smile. They see the smiles. However, I still miss my mom. It just comes in waves. Yes. Um, I love that you said that because you're one of the people I follow on Instagram who I know is actively grieving and has also lost their mom. You're traveling and you're out there exercising and walking. You're looking beautiful and you're smiling. that's what grief looks like. It's not somebody that's under the covers, you know, falling apart, eating bonbons all day. I mean, that sounds fun though. Not even gonna lie. But like, wait, I just talked myself into Sunday all day. Okay, wait. Um, but yeah, you're right. People see us, living and whatever, and they're like, oh, they must be okay, right? Well, but then you also get people on the other hand that when we do talk about it, as we are here today, I try to, think of the good times. I do too. But there's also those times, like only what Mrs. Cox said, in waves. There are times where when I think about the good times, I can just keep on my thought process and keep thinking about other things. Then there are times where I pause, and those thinking of the good times makes me cry, because I'm grieving my mom's loss. So yeah, I think that is also a myth as well, like how we're supposed to, maybe we look, and then there's an assumption with that one way or another. Yes, grief cannot be put on a timetable. Cassandra Wilkes says, I used to say time heals all wounds. A myth. Each one's process is different, right? And can't be put on a timetable. J Trey, I look at life now in sections of before and after 2020. Absolutely. Yeah. So much. Yeah. I mean, it was such a hard line, right? When the pandemic struck. And it's sort of like, BC, before COVID and after, right?
Yes.
It's like a different BC now, before Christ, but no, it's before COVID. But yeah, it's very, very clear. Absolutely. Hey, Yolanda Oil, welcome. Dr. Dady Priest is here. Good to say good morning. Well, it might be morning for some people, but good afternoon to you. Welcome. So glad you're all here. So today we're talking about just sort of chopping it up about grief myths and what you either have experienced, maybe what you might have even thought. Maybe before you experienced grief, you might have thought, oh, grief is this way, and now you are on the other side of it and you believe something different. Things that you've heard, things you've read, perceptions that you feel, like vibes from other people, that for sure are myths. So that's what we're talking about today. Only one Mrs. Cox. On one of the raid trains yesterday, someone played one of my mom's favorite songs, and the tears came as I was singing out loud. It was a good memory. I was just thinking that yesterday, the song by Freddie Jackson, I think it's just Jam, Jam Tonight. And that song came on in the car yesterday, and I didn't start full-blown crying, which takes nothing for me to do, as you all know. I am the resident crier here, but I got a little juicy in the eyeballs. That song came on, and if you all know that song, Jam Tonight, come on and jam tonight. It's like a bop, right? And I'm steady, and I'm in the car driving, and I'm singing, but I felt a little juicy, and it's because it was one of my mom's favorite songs. I don't care where she was. I don't care. If she was in the bathroom, she'd get herself together, wash her hands, come out, and she'd start dancing. If I was around, she'd grab me and we start swing dancing, because she taught me how to swing dance. That was her song. She loved it. And every time I hear it, I see her in the kitchen. Back then, when the song first came out, she smoked. And she had that cigarette and she was swinging with me. And I immediately think of that every time I hear that song. So Mrs. Cox, I get it. I totally know what you mean. And it doesn't mean, we're going to fall apart.
Right.
Or that we're downtrodden.
Right.
And, you're just not over it. It doesn't mean that at all. It's just one of those little waves. And then the song goes off or whatever. You do something else and you're okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is really, and I think that's common for a lot of us too.
Mm-hmm.
Yolanda Oil said, Twitch being here really provided me a distraction, but I'm truly grieving. And my life is in a big pause. I lost my husband 2.5 years ago. Oh, Yolanda, I'm so sorry. Yeah, a pause is a really great term. I think not great, but it's very fitting. And what's fascinating when we feel that pause, and I think I said this before, like you look around and you're like, but everybody else is still going. everybody everybody's still living, and my loved one is gone. Like I'm stopped and stuck
Mm-hmm.
right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
tough. That is tough. And so it's nice that we have this, as you said for Twitch, this distraction. But deep down, you feeling that loss real heavy. I do understand that. Yeah, so sorry about that. I had something spicy for lunch today, and my nose is kind of acting a fool. A little too much sriracha. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So am I caught up yet? Yeah, John says time just keeps on moving when you want to stop. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's funny. I feel like that even like on the anniversary of my mom's passing, which you all know those 2 days are back to back, her birthday and then when she passed. And those 2 days, I'm just like, what are y'all doing? Like y'all have like why do I have to go to work? It's like even still, it's been 5 years, and I feel that way. You just want that time to stop. One of the things that I found online is about grief. And there are a lot of opinions about what some of those myths are. And one is one that we've already talked about, is that grief happens in orderly stages. And this grief therapist, he wrote a book, and he's the director of the Center of Loss and Transition or something like that. Anyway, and so one of the myths that he has the top 5 myths, and one is that we grieve in orderly stages. And he said that's impossible because grief, from the time you experience it until the time you die, grief shows up in little reactions, or as I think Mrs. Cox, maybe a synonym would be waves.
Mm-hmm.
And we just can't control that, right? Like we just can't say, okay, we're at the end of this imaginary timeline, and now the grief is gone.
Yeah.
Just right. It just
Yeah.
this doesn't happen that way. So I think that's one myth that we've addressed. The second one is that grief and mourning are the same thing. And what he describes grief as something we do internally, and mourning is something we do outside of, like, that's more visual. And so it's funny. I've always said that I don't think our society is set up to receive us as grievers. What he would contend, he would not necessarily disagree, but he would offer, we're grieving on the inside. What he would say is that society is not set up to receive us as mourners. As soon as we bury that person, or we find a new job, if we've lost a job, we get a new thing or whatever it is, we get a different pet, if we've lost a pet, soon as that loss that we have, people perceive somehow that it's filled, that we should be done. And so we shouldn't mourn. We should not show our feelings outside of our body, like just outwardly, right? So we should not cry. We should not have moments. We should not physically be tired. One of the things that I know for sure is grief is freaking exhausting.
Yes.
Exhausting, right? But we shouldn't express that because, again, he says that mourning is what we express outwardly. And so grieving is what we do that's internal. And we all do that. We all experience that all of the time. And so he would, again, argue that grief and mourning are not the same. They're not the same.
Good. That's
yeah,
good.
I thought that was fascinating. Yeah. This other thing too, this is what Jay traces. So like, you all are so smart. I love you all so much. His third myth is that all loss, grief is the same no matter the loss or the experience. And Jay Trey just said it, is that, in a different way, that many people think you only grieve the loss of someone. And in many cases, as we all know, it's not just the loss of a loved one. It's so much more. And the grief it's grief, but it might be different and for different reasons. Because here's the other thing. So sometimes it's, for a perfect example, like losing a job, right? One person might lose a job and be like, there are plenty more. Done. I got another job. Another person might lose that same job and grieve that. It might have meant something different to that person. And having that job and what they felt about having that job might, as I was, my mother would say, as you young kids would say, it hit different, right? And so
Yeah.
I find myself saying that now. Like I'm like, you young kids. I'm like, oh God, I'm my mother. Um, but but it hit different. The loss of that job for one person is a new opportunity, a chance to try something different, maybe an opportunity to move to another state or something. To someone else, it is a real loss, and there's some grief that's attached to it. Um, so grief is not all the same. And the other thing that I think will go with that is that grief can occur for, again, for more than losing a loved one. I really wholeheartedly believe that. Um, and then his fourth one is what, now I'm drawing a blank. Someone said, you know, you know, you are, that grief is on a timetable. Says who?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, last I checked, there wasn't even a handbook for grief, right? So who says that there is a timetable for grief? There is none, I believe, and I think you all agree with that as well. Um, and maybe even mourning too. You know, I mean, again, that, you know, crying is outward, feeling down and being low energy. Some people might even argue grief brain, you know, not being clear on things, forgetting things, getting frustrated easily, crying, driving to the park to take your 9-year-old when you don't really want to go.
Mhm.
All of that, right?
Yeah.
That's, you know, there's no timetable for that. So yeah, I think that is again, this therapist is spot on that. And this last one is that when grief, and he puts it in quotes, when grief is resolved, it never comes up again. And he adds, first of all, it's never resolved, right?
Mhm.
But for some people, the resolution is a funeral, the moving, again, getting a you know, another job. Maybe you lost a pet and you get another pet. Um, you know, maybe if you've lost your some physical ability and you get some kind of assistance with that, whether it be medicine or some kind of equipment like a wheelchair or whatever, that it's been resolved, so your grief is over. Again, says who, right? So those are some of the myths that that this his name is Dr. Alan Wolfelt, and I can post the link to this article if you, I'll post it in the Discord under Good Grief. Um, but yes, it's, I think there's a lot out there about about grief that people just buy into and just throw it out there. You know, they just throw it out there and think that they're right, and it's just I'm not offended anymore. I'm not even gonna say I was offended ever, but it's just one of those things I just let roll off my back and say they just don't get it, you know? So STL, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about the myths or I don't know, any of that?
I agree with everything that you shared. I liked the idea of separating the concepts of grief and mourning because we often in our society will make them all synonymous, make them both
Mhm.
synonymous with one another. I like the idea again because we are uncomfortable both with grieving and mourning. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like we need to be allowed the freedom to go through both processes, the grief and the mourning. And I like what we're doing here because hopefully it helps to normalize. Somebody said this is very therapeutic. They like the space and they're glad to come here. Um, Cassandra Woke would like to talk about the wind phone and explain for those that don't. But all of these elements that Crazy Berry Town and both she and Kim Possible bringing her to the table are allowing us the opportunity to both grieve and to mourn. And I think that the myths are just that. And I feel like, you know, time will heal all wounds, they say. Is like, no, this isn't going to be healed, but I will
Mhm.
learn how to maneuver through it. I'll learn how to do what I need to do in how do I want to word it? Being healthy with the way that I interact with it and it interacts with me, but it ain't going nowhere. And I don't feel badly about it. Like I got to make this go away. I appreciate Yolanda sharing, everybody that's sharing. There's some powerful, beautiful things that you guys are saying over there. But even the idea, 2.5 years, I thought I would be in a totally different space. And that expectation that sometimes either whether it's come from within ourselves or it's kind of the way society kind of makes us feel that, okay, by 2.5 years, you should be here,
Right.
no.
Yeah. We've had that chat. You blessed me. Yeah. And talking me through that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I like to use when Kim shared early on in our streaming the idea of like whack-a-mole. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
bam, every time it's here and it pops up. And then about the time you think you got it covered here, it's popped up over there and it's
Yeah.
just popped up. And I think that for me is going to be a continual visual that'll always bless me.
Yeah. I agree. I think again it goes to back to that timeline. There, there's no time. There are reactions. Those little whack-a-moles are different reactions. One of the therapist said there were 5 different reactions. I'm looking at my paper. I printed it out because I'm a professor and I'm a nerd. Physical reactions, cognitive reactions. So these things that we're thinking. Those things come up when it's hard to make decisions. We're confused, short-term memory loss, and for some, thoughts of suicide, particularly early on. Emotional reactions, anger, short-tempered, sadness, and then the 4th one is behavioral. So avoiding. J. just mentioned, maybe hanging out with people and you can only stay for a little while. Avoiding sometimes altogether, not going to social events, things that you might have normally done.
Yes.
And you just pull away from those kinds of things. And then spiritual reactions, asking faith questions, asking why questions, all of those things, because we have brains, all of those things are going to just come up until we die.
Yes.
And those grief reactions, those are those whack-a-mole, they're just going to pop up. We answer that question. Another thing pops up, we're exhausted and somehow we get a burst of energy. Something else pops up and there's an event that we go to or turn down or whatever. And then something else comes up. They're just going to keep coming because we're human. We're human. We just don't turn off whatever when people think there's some resolution to our grief. Again, you've buried someone.
Yes.
You've moved on to a new job. Whatever, and because you've made those transitions and those milestones, that it's somehow over, and it's just not the case. For at least in the situation of losing a loved one, the person dies, but the relationship doesn't, and because of that, the grief, again, it's just not going to miraculously go away. As a result. There are things, doubling back to what Cassandra mentioned, as a result of the relationship, we still want to believe that we could have some connection with our loved ones. And one thing that I've talked about a lot here, and Spiritual Thought Leader has been so great and gracious to give us not just this space, but also even in Discord. And in Discord, under Spiritual Thought Leaders on her channel, I think that's what you call them. I don't even know.
Yes.
She's given us 2 spaces. One is Good Grief, where we just post links to things, quotes, check-ins to say hi or whatever. And then there's also the Win Phone. And for those who are new to our stream, the Win Phone is a concept that was started in Japan right after the big tsunami that happened. I don't remember the date off the top of my head. I should know because I talk about this so much. But a man kept waiting for his cousin, who was like a brother to him, to come back. And he never, because so many people, even to this day, are still just considered missing because they never found bodies. And he just kept waiting and waiting. And so he put this phone, there's no connection or anything, put this phone in his backyard on a tree. And he used it to, air quotes, to call his loved one and to talk to him just just to have some kind of connection. He eventually realized, he was not coming back and he's more than likely gone. And he put this phone up to call him and just talk to him as if I picked up my cell phone and called STL right now.
Yeah.
And people in his neighborhood found out about it. They're stressed out. They are mourning their loved ones and feeling grief. And they would just ask to come over in his backyard and use the phone and call their loved ones. And it's turned into this national thing. It was on NPR, featured on NPR. People literally, just like we plan a trip to New York to go to see a Broadway show, people plan a trip to this guy's town just to go use the Win phone because it's that kind of attraction now. And now this person in Seattle or somewhere in Pacific Northwest here in the United States has done that too. And he has put in the middle of these woods somewhere. And I promise you, if I get out to Seattle one of these days, I think it's in Seattle, I'm going to find it. But he did the same thing. He put a phone out there and people from all over come and they call their loved ones. And they literally, it's like a little booth.
Yes.
And they talk to their loved ones, and call them up and tell them what's going on, just as if they're on the other end. And it's amazing. So what we have in Discord is not quite a phone, but it's a connection. And you can type your message to your loved one. It is directed to them. So I've written, dear mom, and just typed to her what I was feeling at the time. And it's been beautiful to have that space for me to share. But it's also been beautiful to see the hearts of others.
Yes.
I also feel a little bit too, like I'm learning about people's loved ones from what they type to them.
Yes.
And so that's kind of nice too, to see what people are reading, writing and expressing to their loved ones. And I feel a little closer to those people that have shared. So please, if you're not on the Discord, please get connected to the Discord and check out the Good Grief part, and then the Win phone, and type your heart. Yeah, type your heart. It's amazing.
It is.
I love it. J Trey, let's see. I'm catching up with the chat. Time creates emotional scar tissue, in my opinion. Okay. Cassandra, I had an experience today where the good memories caused my eyes to water, like the memories rolling down my cheek. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm all caught up. Okay, great. I thought there was more. So yeah, I think because our relationships don't die when our loved ones die, it's important to try to feel some kind of connection to our loved ones. And so that might be the Win phone. It might be rituals. I think we had a stream where we talked about that a little bit, but doing something to remember the person that you lost.
Yes.
Whether it's, lighting a candle, or what we do on my mom's birthday, we always get a red velvet cupcake, put a candle in it, and we sing. And then we all split that one cupcake. And that's a little inside joke too, because my mom, as she got older, she was 68 when she died. So she wasn't, crazy old or anything like that. But as she got, as she says, in her upper years, she just didn't have much of an appetite. So even eating a whole cupcake wasn't much. So she would just say, well, let's just all, and we would be mad because we wanted our own cupcake, but we wanted to oblige. So she said, well, let's just get one cupcake and we'll all just share it. And we're like, oh, okay. I mean, I kind of want my own, but all right. So we'd have this one cupcake and divide it into fours. Piece for her, a piece for Tim, a piece for Captain Boots, and one for me. Like, Mom, we can afford more than one cupcake,
Yeah.
I just don't want to waste it. And I just, one bite and I'm done. Okay. So,
Yes. J Trey, awesome question here. Yes, Tommy girl, thank you for joining us. We're so glad to have you. First time here, and we appreciate you. So much love coming to you. Welcome. That question right there from J Trey, how would you respond to that, Crazy Berry Town?
Let's see. Have any of you looked around and said to yourself, nothing is the same and everything has changed, and felt displaced? Yeah, at least immediately, and you all know, my loss is my mom. And so for me, when I talk about my grief, it's the loss of a loved one. And for me, yes, I feel like um, for me, everything changed legit. I've said this over and over. My mom was like my North Star, and everything that I am, everything that I will be, is because of her. And so to lose her, which, I mean, again, I'm not an idiot. I'm a human being. I know we're all going to go on to glory at some point. And so I knew I'd walk this earth without her. I just didn't know when she was 68, right? And suddenly, without a chance to say goodbye. So yes, there were times where I literally would just look around and think, I'm like, yes, these are four walls in this house. They're still standing. My house is still a hot mess. I still have mountains of laundry, but it's all different somehow without her. Everything is just different. And I also felt, speaking to the displacement part, I felt like without her, I felt like kind of like some part of me is missing. And so because of that, I even felt like walking this earth, like just felt different. I just felt just different. And I'm not so sure that I felt displaced, but I just felt like I wasn't me. Like this is not the Tracy before August 25th, 2017. So, we talk about BC, before COVID. I feel like, before Cece, my mom, before she died, it's like my life. So it's funny, when I had Trey, everything was BT before Trey and then after, because when you become a mom, Tommy Girls World ×2 for you, at least your babies, right? Everything changes. So everything used to be before Trey, but now it's before my mom died and after. And since, in that after, I just feel, I've used this term before. I just feel like sometimes I'm flapping in the wind, I'm just out here. I'm out here, y'all. So without her, so J-Try, I do understand, like everything has stayed the same, yet everything has changed at the same time. I get that. And it's hard sometimes for people to see that if they haven't really experienced any kind of a loss, or a loss that has been significant for them to have that feeling. Yeah. How about you, STL?
Yeah, I mean, it's like my mom, and it's interesting. I've lost my mother and my father, and in life, I was actually more when during his lifetime more attached to my daddy. People would always say, including my mom, I'm a daddy's girl, but it's just something about that time window after he passed. It was until my mother's demise. It's almost like my mom and my relationship really shifted, and she really became like a major, 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 major part of me. And it's like a piece is missing, when I get up in the morning, and I was her caretaker in the final years. Now she was still able to get up and she was mobile and all of that. It was just the fact of she needed additional assistance in some areas, but it was still like we had bonded completely differently. And so, yeah, like I in the morning and the afternoon and the evening time and I think about her all the time, and it's like it just feels like there's a piece missing, like I've had an amputation of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like truck driver saying, he's going to a family reunion. It's the second time since his parents passing, and he feels like he's in a strange land. It's like with our loved ones missing, things that were one way are different without them. It just, I mean, and that's, and going back to what J Trey said, sometimes people, they think, maybe going somewhere, or things you used to do all the time, you don't do, showing up to certain events, showing up to things, and you just sort of pull away. And some of it has nothing to do with the people who are going to be there or the event itself. It's that you're not the same. And if it's anything that your loved ones would be a part of, without them there, it's just something's missing. They are missing. And that part of whatever it is that you love so much about them, that they brought to the event or whatever it is, it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, like I've been home a few times since my mom passed, but I cannot go to the church I grew up in. I can't do it. We had her funeral there. She had her seat that she loved, her pew, her pew. And I love my church. I love my church family. And they, I'll post after I get back to Atlanta. Oh, I had such a great time at home. And then, the little church aunties, I can't believe you came home and you didn't come to church. They don't mean any shade at all.
Uh-huh.
And I really would love to see them. I would. I just can't go into that building. I have so many amazing memories of my mom and I together, doing things together at our church. I can't tell you how many times I got the eye when I was in the choir stand and she was in the audience and I was talking too much and she gave me the when I get home, I'm gonna tear you up kind of thing. I miss that, I was like, so when if I think about going back to church, all that stuff comes up. And then I know for sure, like I know because I have that vision now of the church. When I walk through that door, I'm just going to see her casket. And yes. I cannot do it. I cannot. Today. I don't know how I feel next year, year after, whatever. And I'm okay with that. But it's just, when that person is gone, just everything changes, particularly when you were so close. Yeah. And you feel like in Jay Trey's comment, you feel displaced. Like I feel like if I walk in my church right now, listen, the love is going to be there. My pastor, that guy, the guy that's there, the pastor, he's a new guy, but he knew my mom. He'll make me stand up and Tracy's back, or whatever.
Yes.
And it would be great. But I will not feel like I belong there without her.
Yes.
I just, you know what I mean? Like I just, what am I doing here? I just cannot do it. I can't even imagine at this point. Again, I may feel different next year or whatever, but at this moment, it just doesn't feel right. And it doesn't feel like it should be, So yeah, definitely I would feel displaced. Yeah. Right. Tommy girl, were that one look. Yeah. I was telling somebody the other day, actually I was talking to a friend. She's white. She's another mom in Trey's class and the boys swim together now. And we were talking about that. And so she was saying how her mom would give her the, I said, oh, white folks' parents gave them the look too. I didn't know. I wasn't being funny. I really wasn't. But we talk about in the Black community. And I don't know if you all saw this, but there's a video. STL, have you seen the video of Serena Williams' mother they're at the US Open Serena played this week. And Serena's daughter was sitting in front of Serena's mom. She was behind her. And I guess the little girl turned around and Serena's mom gave her a look and she turned around real quick. She got herself together, honey. And so we were talking about that. And she was like, yeah, my mom used to do the same thing to me. And I was telling her about the choir.
Yes.
And how my mom, she'd be.
Yes, that look. We know that look.
Straight ahead. And if she had to do it twice, I knew when I got home, it was a wrap.
Yes. Yes.
But it's so funny. There's this video going around. You have to find it of Serena's mom, and she leaned in like this,
honey. And
that little girl turned around. And what was funny is somebody said, "But did you notice the three grown folks sitting around her? They got it together too. They turned around." She wasn't even talking to them, but they were like, okay.
I haven't seen it yet. I gotta find it. I love it.
But it's like that universal, everybody knows.
The look. Yes.
Back like, okay. Right?
Yes. Oh my
really
God.
It's funny because everybody's in the comments, like on Twitter, and I've seen it on Instagram. Everybody in the comments is like, yep, I know exactly what I know what she said to her, or I know what she was, what she was getting across to her, because she turned around so quick, she got her little self together, honey. Won't it? Right, Michelle Browno. Hey, love. She said, my grandmother ruled the entire youth department from her seat in church. Oh, God. You got that look, honey. I'm trying to tell you. Covering yourself accordingly. Okay? Yes. And me and my busy mouth, I got that look every single time the children's choir sang. Like, I just never stop talking. Never. So, yeah, I got that a lot. Yeah. So yeah. So if you all are just joining us, we hadn't revisited and mentioned our topic, but we were just talking about myths surrounding grief today. And again, this is one of the great things about this stream is that it's not, when we talk about grief, we're laughing, that's part of, of it. And we're not, here downtrodden and whatever. Although we do have some times where we cry or people share things that are heartwarming or touching and sad. We do that, and that's what we're here for. But we're here for all of it. And the thing about grief is it's not all we're downtrodden, and so and like I said, I've seen in the comments here, we've been doing this stream for a while now, and I've seen sometimes people say things, in my opinion, that have been sort of in that vein of well, I'm not going to be, I'm always going to be upbeat. I'm going to look to the brighter. I'm going to look to the sun every day. And, I'm just going to be happy. And that's great. But us having this stream and talking about it and using as some people might think, the dirty word of grief, doesn't mean that we're not doing the same thing too.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that we're not getting some sun in our face every day. It doesn't mean that we're not going to ride every roller coaster at Six Flags with your 9-year-old, or going on vacations with your girlfriends, and going on wine tours, mowing your lawn and listening to some good music. It doesn't mean we're not doing those things just because we're addressing the topic of grief. This, and I'm pointing at STL, is what grief looks like. Mm-hmm. Only One Mrs. Cox going on trips, working out, truck driver going to his family reunion, enjoying his grandchildren, Rebel, The Cracks, her streams, amazing. That's what grief looks like. We do life. And one of the things that the therapist said is that sometimes a part of this living, and as STL said, the whack-a-mole, will get those grief reactions.
Yes.
Are we in a grief reaction 24/7? Some people might be, but sometimes, grief rears its head for some of us, and then it goes away and we're all right. So it is important to be, as some people have said, to be positive. Sure. It is important to have faith if that's your jam. Yes, have faith. It is important to pray. Absolutely, if that's what you do, or meditate. It is important to think of better times. Absolutely, yeah. We're not saying not to, but we're here for when those grief reactions, when the whack-a-mole moles pop up, how can we walk through that? How can we maybe try to make it better for the next time? How can we work through those kinds of things? And we're doing that here together. Not that we're not happy. I mean, y'all know I'm cray-cray like all day, right? So this is grief right here, okay?
Love it. Love it.
So again, there are lots of myths surrounding grief. And what I want to at least chew on a little bit more, even for me, is that it takes all kinds of forms, and and sometimes for some people it's not even recognizable in other people, and I just want us to be aware of that, and to and I know there are people here, because I say this in my stream, when if you're not actively grieving, come and be a support, come and learn some things, and be a support maybe for someone who is, but recognize that, just because we're laughing and smiling, whatever, doesn't mean, because, sometimes people get criticism too. Oh my God, I cannot believe she's laughing and giggling. We've talked about this, the Punch Bowl moment with Florida, right? Her kids were, Florida Evans on Good Times. Her kids were like, Mama hasn't cried yet. And, she's just over there kikiing. They didn't say kikiing in the 70s, but she's over there having fun and talking and collecting the hams when they walk in the door. And why is she so happy? Is she over daddy? Didn't she love him? And at that moment, that's how she was getting through it, right? Until the Punch Bowl, and she dropped that Punch Bowl, right? So just because, too, that we might be outwardly one way, it honestly means absolutely nothing. Doesn't mean we're over it. It could mean we're over it. It doesn't mean we're really, really sad all the time. It could mean we're really, really sad. You can't make any assumptions because there's so many myths surrounding grief. And we're all different too in the way we express them and what we're grieving. As Jay Trey pointed out earlier, what we are grieving is also different. It's not always a person, it's other things as well. So I hope you all got something from this today. And and also too, a lot of it too is for you to be patient with yourself, because sometimes we take on those myths, right? Like John said earlier, he used to think grief was linear, so sometimes we buy into what society throws at us, right? I
Mhm.
should, and I'm one of those people too. I've expressed it in a way, when we were on the Discord. 5 years later, I feel like I'm still in the same place, and the implication was I should feel different. That was the
Mhm.
implication. I didn't go that far to say that, and STL talked me off the ledge, but but we buy into the timeline, we buy into the looks, we buy into tears or no tears. We buy into these things that we see on TV, social media says, people say to our faces, right? So hopefully, talking about these myths helps us
Yes.
to move forward in grace. As Kim Possible, who's not here with us today, always says, give yourself grace. Give
Yes.
yourself grace for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joanna, hey girl, how are you? I didn't see you come in. When my dad died, because I wasn't bawling every day, I told I wasn't grieving. See? Right. So, I feel like, and that's like an example as well of like, we can't win. You know, you
Yeah.
get the people on one side and say, be happy, be happy. At least you had that person, or you had that job, or, the pet you had for a long time or whatever. You should be smiling and jumping off the wall. Then when you are, you're not grieving enough. So here's the tea. It's all about you and your walk and your journey, and how you internalize or not, how you feel though about your loss. It's about you, it's your walk. One of the things we haven't talked a ton about, but we've mentioned, is how lonely grief is.
Mhm.
It is very lonely, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's your walk. And so that outside stuff, it's just outside stuff. And again, a lot of it is just wrong.
Yeah.
People don't know our hearts. They really don't. They don't know what's behind the smile. And sometimes, like today, what's behind my smile is about 6 o'clock, cocktail time. Okay. That's what's behind this smile. I'm not actively crying or grieving or whatever. Yes, I miss my mom. Yes, she's not here, whatever. But all I know is come 6 o'clock, I'm going to have some sidecar martinis. Okay. So, so sometimes what's behind the smile is just that. It's just joy. It's just happiness or whatever. Sometimes behind the smile, it is something else, right?
Yes.
But people just don't know. So in that vein, just be you, just do you, give yourself some grace either way, right?
Yes.
And just know that a lot of times what people say to us or intimate, because sometimes they don't come out and say it, they just a little shady.
Mhm.
A lot of times it's purely their perception, and their perceptions are myths.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just that.
Yes.
DJ Stacy Blessman, I'm just now beginning to look at the calendar and dates without having anxiety. Wow,
Yeah.
that's big.
Yeah.
It's really big.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, let's see. Okay, right. The grief happened long before his death. Your dad. Yeah, we've talked about that as well. And there was a show on TV, not maybe a couple years ago. It was a talk show, but I don't remember whose talk show. And they were talking about mourning and grieving before someone has passed, because you anticipate, because of maybe a terminal illness, or maybe an accident, and they might be on life support, and you're expecting things to change for the other side. And so people grieve and mourn the loss before the person actually dies. And that I can imagine. I don't know that. I do a little bit. I know my dad, we expected him to pass well before he did, actually. It was just really a blessing that he was able to be with us as long as he was. Um, and and you all know, I mean, relationships are different. They are. My mom left my dad when I was 2 because he was a nut. Um, and I love my, I listen, y'all got to stop me, because sometimes I say stuff and I'm like, I don't think I should have said that. But it's just me. Y'all get what you get when you come here with me, okay? But my dad was a nut. I mean, what man puts a gun to his wife and 6-year-old baby's head, 6-month-old baby's head? A nut. Anyway, so she left him. And so I didn't have a super close relationship with him. So My stepmom, she was married to my dad for 22 years before he passed. Now she would say she mourned his loss before he died because she was with him by his side when he got diagnosed with leukemia, all of the sleepless nights in emergency room visits and all of that, and then when he was admitted to hospice and so forth. So yeah, that is something that is real for many people. That I don't know if there's a real term, but that before they die, that loss is before you feel that grief, and that's hard. So rebel, see, that's why I know I love knowing that the rebel's back there in the background, because I know she gets me right. So but yeah, it's funny. When I see people show up, I'm like, okay, whew, they came back, because I know I can be a bit. I already know. So that's what I always say. And this STL, honestly, that's why I keep saying thank you for letting us have this space, because, I mean, we all bring something different to the table. And, but I am just, and this is what I tell my students in my class. I'm a college professor. This is right here, what y'all see right here. This is what they get.
Yes.
The only thing they don't get from me is cussing, unless you really piss me off. I don't cuss in my class, but my happy-go-lucky, funny, slangy, yo, what's the tea? That's me in my English class every day. Like they get what they get. I'm this way
Yes.
all the time. So,
Yes.
it is what it is. But yeah, my dad was a nut. I loved him, but and we expected him to pass. But in this, from the time he was diagnosed until he died, our relationship changed. He was one of those people, when they get that news, they're really sick, that went on a remorse tour, and he did, and he tried to repair a lot of the wrongs that he did, and it repaired our relationship. So we had 4 years, 4 good years, and I, like I said, I knew he was going to pass, but I don't know that I was necessarily grieving, say, like my stepmom was, but we could see it in her. We would go visit her, and I honestly, I didn't get it back then. I was let's see, I had just gotten married, so that was 2002. I got married in 2001, so 2002 was when he was really ill, and my stepmom would just cry all the time, and I was 27, I think. I didn't get it. I was like, what is she crying for? He's still upstairs breathing. I just didn't get it. But it was that I know he's going to go at some point, and she was grieving.
Mhm.
Well, dance, and I get it now. I never said that to her face, y'all. I didn't. I did. I did. But I would look at her, and I'd be like, if you don't get yourself together, like, he's right upstairs and he hears you crying, But I totally get it now, and that's a
Mhm.
so. Yeah, see, Tommy Girls, bro. My papa was a Rolling Stone. I see why mama didn't marry him. Yeah, yeah. My dad, by the time he died, he was on his, let me see, one, two, his fourth marriage. So yeah, my stepmom was his fourth wife. Bless her heart. She's a saint. I really believe she'll actually be here next week. She might get on stream with me. I don't know. But I feel like she should be up in the Catholic Church, the saints, stained glass, for being with my dad for 22 years. God bless her. So and what's strange about it, though, is I'm very much like him. I'm very much like my dad. It's crazy. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm like him in the personality. I'm loud and sometimes a bit much, and my mom was not like that at all. Or maybe she was. I don't know. John, for me, the anticipation of death was worse. Yeah, I've heard that. Hmm. Yeah, I've heard that. I took care of Joanna G. I took care of my dad during his last days, and lost so much weight and couldn't do so much. It was so heartbreaking. Yeah, to see your loved ones in that way. Um, I can imagine, especially on a regular basis. I can imagine that's hard. My mom went through that with her sister, her oldest sister. She had pancreatic cancer, and she was the life of the family, and she was the oldest. She took care of her, all of that. She took care of folks, and then to see her succumb, um, even before she died, she had kind of succumbed in a way, lost the weight, and she just wasn't herself. That was really, really, really hard for my mom. She just like, I can't take it. But she was her caretaker. So it was, and that in Joanna G, the word you use, heartbreaking. That's what my mom said. She said, "This is heartbreaking, and it's devastating for me to see my rock, her oldest sister, in that way." Yeah, Yolanda, I took care of my mom during her last days, but your husband was unexpected. I'm so sorry. Tommy girls, listen. You can't be out there pimping with twins to the set with 10 months now. You keep the sis, okay? You just
You
but
not,
Tommy girl, she has like I think they're 10 months old. She has like 10-month-old twins.
oh boy.
I know, right? Can't be out there pimping. Right?
Listen. We
Or
got
they-
true confessions. Love it.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
So I just want to say thank you to everybody. I think we will be wrapping up shortly. I won't be in Discord today. We actually have a little Twitch meetup tomorrow. There's a big event here. DJ Finesse is having a Finesse Fest. But there are a lot of people that live here in Atlanta that are doing other stuff this weekend. So anyway, I'm putting together a meetup so we can meet Chanel B and some other Twitch folks. And I need to go do a quick little shopping thing for that. So I won't be in Discord because I need to run a couple of errands before I get Captain Boots from school. But I want to say thank you to everybody for get my prepositions correct. Thank you to everyone for being here today and for sharing your hearts. I know it's not easy, even behind the screen, typing on your phones or your keyboards. I always make the joke about keyboard courage, how people get on their keyboards and talk trash and, say crazy stuff because they're online. But when it comes to your heart, sometimes it's hard to even type. Perfect example, Kim Possible, who is also one of our co-hosts, she said she went into the Win Telephone channel on Discord and she wanted to write to her friends her loved ones that she had lost. And no matter how many times she started, she just couldn't do it, even just typing the words. So I appreciate you all coming here and typing and sharing about your loved ones and your experience, because I know it's not easy. And so for you to come back every week or come back, period, and not just come back, you're participating and sharing and you're trusting us with your feelings and your heart means everything. This is really what, besides my outside of Twitch life or, whatever, this is really one of my passions, is talking about grief and embracing each other. So thank you, STL. Thank you, everybody, for this space and for being here. And while you're at it, go ahead and find some joy. Yeah. Make sure you chase the joy, go after it, get it. You deserve it. You're worth it. Hopefully all of you have a long weekend, but nevertheless, you have a weekend coming up, and I appreciate you all for being here, and enjoy yourselves, be safe, and all that jazz. Yeah.